السلام عليكم للجميع، الله يحييكم. وويلكم للحديقة جديدة مع عبد العزيز البسام. يا هلا.
أهلا وسهلا، شاكر لك يا منال وشاكر لمسك وشاكر للأخوان جميعا على استضافتي.
فخلينا نبدأ. Tell us about Abdulaziz Albassam. Who is he?
Who is Abdulaziz Albassam? Well, it's hard to talk about yourself in the third place. I'm a father, husband and son. Born and raised in Khabar in the Eastern Province. Had a beautiful childhood. Very active as a child. My poor mother, Miskina. Played, I think, every sport that I can think of.
Nice.
العيارة حقتي كانت سيكل. Then I had a bicycle my entire childhood. So I remember just going neighborhood to neighborhood, playing football. And just a happy child. Picked up judo at the age of 12. And I guess that really formulated my personality in a large way. And it had an impact not only on me personally, but even on my professional career. I knew immediately that I wanted to pursue an athletic career, that I wanted to live abroad, specifically for judo. Subhanallah. Yani that one thing led to the other, and I still apply the values and the learnings that I had from judo till this day.
And that's something we're going to come back to, because judo is something لسه إلى الآن a part of your life, a very active part of your life.
Exactly.
Okay. So you said dream, Ali, you were very sporty. For كل sports? Judo was just
well,
one of them.
I started with football. يعني أنا الحمد لله, I was born to an athletic family. My father and two of my uncles were in the national team of football.
MashaAllah.
One of them was the captain of both the Bahrain team and the Saudi team. يعني ما شاء الله عليهم كانوا كلهم لاعبين قدم، لاعبين جمباز، لاعبين ملاكمة. يعني أذكر من صغري يعني أشوف أبوي كل واحد ما شاء الله، يعني كل واحد يشوف أبوه كأكبر شيء بالدنيا. أنا كان الشيء هذا عندي مضاعف، بحكم أن أبوي كان في رحمة الله عليه كان في نادي القادسية، نادي محبب لي، وأنا أكبر عياله، فكان هو يشوف نفسه فيني وأنا صغير. فسبحان الله من هذه يعني بنت علاقتنا كنا كصداقة أنا والوالد. وحتى في الشغابة، يعني أنا كنت مشاغب، ويعني أدخل أكثر من حارة، ألعب مع أكثر من فريق، سيكلي ينسرق ويرجع لي من كثر ما الناس عارفيني. فكانت طفولة جميلة صراحة للأمانة، وعلمتني الكثير وتعلمت من والدي الكثير. علمتني الثقة بالنفس، حب الآخرين، كانت عندي حب الصداقات والتعرف على الناس الآخرين من الصغر موجودة، لأنك أساس تدخل في حواري وتلعب مع ناس ثانيين لازم تتأقلم مع أكثر من شخص. فمن هذه الناحية أعطتني فرصة إني أتعرف على الناس الثانيين. وشيء ثاني إنه أبوي زرع فيني شيء، طبعا الوالد والوالدة، لكن أنا أقول الوالد لأن كنت مركز عليه في الرياضة. زرعوا فيني شيء من الصغر، وهو إنه لو بغيت أطلع في الحواري وأروح ألعب لازم أخلص واجباتي. فكنت يعني أنا أذكر من الصف الأول أو الصف الثاني أحل واجباتي يا في المدرسة أو وأنا أنتظر الوالد هو يأخذنا في السيارة على أساس أطلع.
So it doesn't interfere مع playing.
So it doesn't interfere with playtime. لأن لازم أنا والوالد حريص، يعني المغرب أنت في البيت، 7:30 8 أنت نايم. يعني he was very strict. فأنا to maximize my time playing outside and playing sports and playing in different games in different leagues, I had to be really good at school. وسبحان الله تخرجت أنا top يعني second in my class as a result of this. For the combination of I keep going back to sports. It was really sports that pushed me towards academia, and I really liked it and enjoyed it. And really sports that pushed me indirectly towards يعني الحمد لله being a successful professional or a successful leader.
Alhamdulillah. Sports definitely كذا with discipline and كذا, again, as you said, engaging. Yes. So move us on. So all of your studies were في الخبر.
Yes.
بعدين what were the next steps?
So that's the first fork in my life. I knew طبعا my father went to the US back in the 70s, so it was a wild time. And 60s actually, 60s, early 70s. So my father, him and I had an agreement that you're going to study Saudi. And I always thought إنه جامعة البترول. is the place to go. I took the Ram 1. I was going to go to Jamiat Petrol. SubhanAllah, my first fork in my life was a friend of mine, a still dear friend to this day, Badr Rabi'a, took me and told me, you have to come to this program. It's called the College Prep Program by Aramco. And in a nutshell, it's you're restudying everything you studied in the last 3 years in high school in English while taking the SATs to prepare you to go and study abroad under the scholarship of Aramco. I had never heard about the program. يعني سبحان الله لو ما جاني بدر وأخذني took the time to take me to the center to show me the place, I would have been a completely different person. I was amazed. طبعا أنا يعني I'm competitive by nature. The fact it was all in English, that I had to do it all over again, that it was يعني very competitive, I had to go in and I had to try. And the second thing is there was the scholarship. But I knew that my father will say, absolutely not. So I finished the year. I applied to American or British schools, but knowing that my father at the end of the year will say no. Here comes a second fork in my life, which was my uncle. My father's older brother. أنا أبوي من طبعه إنه إذا قال لا خلاص.
لا معناها
لو الشمس زرقاء ما تغير، يعني كلامه ما يرجع فيه أبدا. أعتقد هذه المرة الأولى قد تكون الأخيرة اللي غير رأيه فيها. يعني أنا قلت لعمي أنا ودي، وعمي يقول ليش ما تروح؟ فأنا قلت يعني ودي أروح، بس الصراحة يعني خايف ومستحي من أبوي، ما أقدر أفاتها في الموضوع. قال أنا أكلمه. سبحان الله كلمه، والوالد الله يرحمه جاني من نفسه وقال إذا ودك تروح. يعني سبحان الله غيرت مسار حياتي، فهذه برضو غيرت مسار حياتي. وفعلا رحت لأمريكا in August 2001.
Memorable.
September 11 happens a month later. So imagine I'm an 18-year-old. I'm an 18-year-old. I'm in the U.S. September 11 happens. The Saudi embassy in Aramco gave us the choice. We can take you to another school in the UK, Australia, or go back to Saudi. Or you complete the entire 4 years. One shot. You're not going to go back. لأنه our visa expires after 2 years. There's a chance you're not going to get the visa. So don't risk it. So go all the way. فيعني you can imagine, I'm living in a dorm, 18 years old. I had made a promise to myself. Aramco used to give us a stipend. 1200 ريال لسه أتذكرها أول ما أخذتها. يعني I made a promise to myself I'm never going to ask for ريال من أهلي. وسبحان الله فعلا من يومها ما أخذت. فكان عندي حب التحدي هذا. I said لا I'm going to continue. And it was the best decision I made. وسبحان الله أرجع للرياضة. يعني إيش اللي احتواني في الفرحة هذه؟ كان فريق الجودو. I was really good. I was the captain of the team. And you know the
captain of the team هنا في السعودية ولا؟
لا في الجامعة.
Okay.
My English is not that great. But the team took me in. My coach became my father. Team members became my brothers. They will take me in for Christmases, Thanksgivings, holidays, teach me how to tie a tie. The basic stuff. Those, I don't want to call them formative years because the formative years are usually your early years, but those years in many ways were formative years for my personality. يعني learn to stand up on my own. Difficult times, homesick. But when you go through, I won't call it a crucible experience, but when you go through an experience like that, you come out on the other end, يعني much bigger, I think.
If you keep repeating judo. So let's move to that. So how is judo? Is judo still playing a part of your life?
Judo is still playing a part of my life. طبعا I started judo when I was 12. I stopped about when I was maybe 30 for a long time. Didn't achieve my dream. I wanted to go to the Olympics. I couldn't compete at the Olympics. So I stopped for a while. But يعني in the Japan Olympics, when I came back, I saw, طبعا by then I had my daughter Lean. she was 3 years old. والسعودية بدأ التغير يصير والتحول يصير ومشاركة المرأة بدأت. فكنت أبغى أدخل لين في لعبة الجودو، وشفت صراحة شيء أبهرني في الأولمبياد وهي مشاركة تهاني القحطاني. بس أنا المومنت هذه صراحة inspired me hugely. يعني أنا ذكرت أن جودو كان له الأثر الكبير في تحول في حياتي. الشيء الثاني اللي كان له أثر كبير هو الدراسة. لطالما أنا حبيت الدراسة وحبيت الجامعة بسبب الإكسبيرينس اللي ذكرتك عليها، فكنت أبغى أجمع ما بين الاثنين. وأنا شفت إنه الجودو هي اللي ودتني الجامعة والجودو هي اللي ساعدتني في الجامعة، فقلت ليش ما نجمع الاثنين؟ فكان في فترة ترشيح بعد الأولمبياد، فقررت إني أرشح نفسي، وسبحان الله صرت رئيس الاتحاد السعودي للجودو الحين. فرجعتني للرياضة. والأجمل من كذا إني أشوف اللاعبين الصغار بنات وأولاد في المدرسة في النادي، والآن عندهم تحدي والطموح صار كبير جدا. يعني على أيام، وأقول 20 سنة زي أخونا حاتم، على أيامي أنا إنك تطلع على آسيا ولا العرب هذا كان يعتبر. الآن قاعد نفكر في مش نتأهل ميداليات، قاعد نفكر ناخذ ميدالية. فشيء يثلج الصدر صراحة. واللي يعجبني خاصة في البنات إنه أنا بديت من 12، في بنات قاعد يبتدون 17 18 وما عندهم خوف، وإنك يعني تدخل في البساط قدام شخص لابس حزام أسود. يعني I invite you to take that feeling. يعني it's very intimidating.
I can imagine.
It takes a lot for a person to step in and to take that challenge, knowing you're going to fly in the air. It inspires, and it's something that I truly believe every child in Saudi needs to try at least once. If not for the sport, then for the benefits that come with it.
And those benefits, if you're talking at hand, you're still kida in judo. How did those benefits, the intimidation, all of it, how does that inform as you as a leader?
Oh, great question. طبعاً, one thing, I think a lot of leaders go through some sort of an imposter syndrome, where you're not sure whether you deserve to be in this place, whether this was by chance. يعني يمكن ما تكون هذا المكان اللي أنا موجود فيه. Am I fake? Is it authentic? Am I adding real value? I think judo, going through that experience, يعني sports is the greatest equalizer. Combat sports is even a higher equalizer. Because otherwise you can't win unless it's with your hands. And I think going through something like that helps a leader understand that you can go in and you can try your own skills, and you can fall and get up and fall and get up and fall again and get up again. So it's not about how many times you fall, it's about how many times you get up. And that's the lesson that sports gives you. And I think if a leader has that background, then what's a failed presentation or a meeting where you look, you don't look like your best. It just fast tracks it. يعني, maybe a bad pun, but it's like leadership on steroids when you have sports in the background.
Interesting. Elaborate on that.
I think it removes this trepidation and fear about failure. When you have a sporting background. Because in sports, there's always something that's faster, stronger, taller, can jump higher than you. In the corporate or commercial context, that may not be as obvious. So the opportunities for you to fail and learn might not be as much as in sports, which happens every day in the gym. So I think in that way, it's tremendously helpful for a leader. And humbling.
And humbling.
Yes.
Okay, so move us to your leadership, your different, maybe not positions necessarily, but your experience. Maybe if you tell us, what do you do? You haven't quite touched on that.
I started my career as a chemical engineer. Because I mentioned I was in Aramco. Aramco was going through its own transformational journey. going from an upstream company to a downstream integrated energy company. So I figured that's a good area to go into. So I graduated with chemical engineering, and then I came back and they hired me as a petroleum engineer, which is 90 days. One is downstream and one is all the way upstream. So that was the first challenge. But as many of us will later know, a degree is just, it's weight on paper. It's just the thinking, the engineering, problem solving is what you get out of that degree, really. And so I had the very good fortune of having really good mentors at the time. Again, another thing from sports that it taught me is always go to whoever is the best in the area and try to get from them as much as possible. So I had Salam Salame, Carl Dismuke, Selfraz Jokyu, great teachers. And anybody who's a great teacher is a great mentor. And I remember, learn from them complicated things like reservoir modeling and production management that's completely unrelated to what I'm supposed to do as an engineer. But I enjoyed it and I ended up doing well with it. And I chose to go to the field, actually, because I got to see it for 1 year in the office, and I wanted to see how it is in السفانية ولا بقيق ولا الفاضلي, and that was tremendously amazing. Halfway through, I decided I wanted to do a complete switch. So I wanted to go back to school. Yeah, I remember a friend of mine in college saying, "Have you thought about going and pursuing a legal degree?" And I said, "Wow, it's completely different." وأتذكر قالها قال أصلاً ما راح تنجح حتى لو جيت، ترى مرة صعب. هو يقول لي اياها بذيك الايام، فاتذكرها في ذاك الوقت ودخلت في بالي. وسبحان الله, after I came back and Aramco started going into more investments in the downstream sector, joint ventures and acquisitions, I thought a legal career will kind of put me at a 30,000 foot into the company's operations and the company's investments. And I applied, I got in, I got a scholarship from Aramco, went and got my Juris Doctorate in the US, did the bar exam, worked in New York for a law firm for a year, which was another great experience. Living in the US as a professional this time and having a bit more money than what I used to have as a student, and then came back. So that was my second phase of my career. One was engineering, the second was a lawyer. Then in 2016, I went to Aramco's European base of operations as the general counsel. So I got to wear the management hat and be more on the strategy side of things, which was great. I had just gotten married a year before, so this was a great way to have a long honeymoon with my wife, before we had the kids. So that was also an amazing experience I had. For 4 years that were amazing. 2019, we get hit with COVID, and for the oil industry, we get hit with a slump in oil prices. So that was a huge challenge. First time that Aramco was divesting out of investments. So that was a challenge. But throughout that challenge, I managed to get my MBA. So I started looking at the business side of things, and that was interesting. And now back in Riyadh, and now with King Salman Park Foundation. So growing trees.
You glided over that. So chemical engineering, switching to law, then just with Corona, with the pandemic, just an MBA.
جمع شهادات.
ما شاء الله. لا بس ما شاء الله. So what led you to the seeking, the changing, the growth?
To be honest, I've always enjoyed studying. And after you get your bachelor's degree, executive or higher education is mostly based on case studies, which to me is even more interesting because it's more practical, more real life. It started with the legal studies. All of the studies in common law are based on court cases. It's much more hands-on and in touch with the realities, as opposed to formulas and theoretical studies. So I just enjoyed it, and I continued to make that a part of my journey, whether it's a degree or a class or a book. I've always looked for something new to learn. I've also always enjoyed being, I didn't want to be boxed in one area. Engineering gave me a facet, in management and leadership. Law and legal studies gave me another facet. An MBA gave me another facet. And then the soft skills through programs like Misk gives you another facet. So I think it's interesting. It also allows you to meet so many different leaders and people who are really good in their field, and you get to learn from them, collaborate with them, network with them. I've always been an extrovert and a people's person. You're smiling. So,
yes.
That puts you in circles that you would otherwise not be in, and you get to learn from people. Now I'm in with the اللجنة الأولمبية مع الجودو. That's in other circles. Investment circles also the same. So I just think it's, if the day you stop wanting to learn, I think is a dangerous day. I think that's when we stop living. So I think a person always has to push the envelope, look for more, get out of the comfort zone. And I've always enjoyed that. I didn't think that was something to be afraid of. I thought that was something to look forward to.
MashaAllah, but that's fascinating because you're talking about the hidden aspects as well of academic, but also meeting other people, just growing, touching into different circles, different opportunities.
Yeah. Like I said, it's something that I've always enjoyed. I'm looking forward to the next phase, which is kind of related to this, which is more towards giving. It started with judo, trying to give something to the community. It's interesting, even as leaders, I'm wondering whether people feel the same. You kind of feel like that imposter syndrome. Am I doing it for the right reason? I was telling Hatem, and I'm glad Hatem went before me, because he started his talk by something along the lines of, we're sharing our stories so others can learn and feel they can relate, and they can start their own journey.
Absolutely.
So and I've asked him about it right afterwards, and he said, it's not about you, it's actually about the program. And that's exactly the right mindset. And that's why I'm here, to be honest with you. It's to show people who might be starting their career or mid their career or not sure about a point in their career, that there are so many options out there available. والحمد لله يعني احنا في وقت الآن في تاريخ المملكة وفي رؤية 2030 المجالات فيها واسعة جدا وأكثر من اللي ما كانت في السابق. بس لازم الانيشيتيف has to start from within. And I feel the more it starts from a place of interest as opposed to a place of where you think the ball might be, then it's a much more enriching experience. If you're interested in learning, just the fact of learning, then it doesn't matter which side or track you take, it'll end up being interesting, and I can almost guarantee it will end up being useful at some point in your career. The story of Steve Jobs, I think everybody knows the story of Steve Jobs taking a class in calligraphy in college, not thinking that would be just because he's interested. And it turns
I don't know
out
this story. No, go ahead.
Yeah, so he dropped out of college first of all. So that's one of the only classes that he took.
That one I think a lot of people know.
And it was a class in calligraphy, and he took sans serif and italic and Times New Roman. The reason why we have them today is because when they did the Apple, they incorporated those fonts. Yeah, exactly. Because the IBM, I think it was IBM or HP, was just the regular, regular font. So the point is, I think, don't think about my initial degree was, I thought this is where Aramco was going, therefore I'm going to study chemical engineering. And almost ultimately, I mean, from day one, I ended up in a completely different career, as opposed to going for something that you're interested in, and you'll end up finding whether you're manifesting that thing, but you'll end up using whatever you're picking up as a skill or a degree in your next phase in life.
Passion will move you forward and things will fall into place as they're meant to be.
Exactly.
Excellent. Thank you. We're going to actually open the floor now to questions. Very enthusiastic.
طيب في سؤال يعني تحمست أسأله لما أنت تكلمت حاتم. الحين حاتم وضح لنا حاجة إنه القياديين مرة مختلفين، وهذه حاجة جميلة اكتشافها في الكوهورت حقنا، مظبوط، وإنه كل واحد مدرسة لحاله وكل واحد قصة لحاله. أبى أغير شوية المحور. أنت أكيد شايف نفس اللي شايفه حاتم.
أكيد إيش؟
نفس اللي شايفه حاتم أنت شايفه.
يس.
طب السؤال ليك دحين، إيش الشيء اللي إحنا متشابهين فيه؟ لأنه هذا الشيء هو اللي ما أعرف، أنا بالنسبة لي مهم جدا. إحنا مختلفين 100% وهذا سبب أسباب النجاح، بس في شيء متشابهين فيه أو عدة أشياء بسيطة يعني. فإيش هي من وجهة نظرك؟ هذا سؤال أول. لا خليني أنسى أسئلة، استنى شوي. السؤال الثاني، أنت إكستروفيرت، أوكي؟ How you put your mindset in the morning and to keep this beautiful smile so you can influence and be radiant مع الناس الثانيين. تعال سؤال، نجلس مع بعض نتناقش كذا الكتاب هذا والكتاب هذا، وينفلونسد مي إني أقرأ كتب حلوة كتير. إيش آخر كتاب قريته؟
طيب نبتديها من أول سؤال which is what do we have in common؟ إيش الأشياء اللي كلنا نتشارك فيها؟ للأمانة ما أقدر أكمل على الكلام اللي قاله حاتم، صراحة كلام جميل جدا فعلا. مجموعة أولا الإيجو عندهم زيرو، وهذا شيء جدا عجبني، لأنه أنا كان أحد تخوفي صراحة من جية البرنامج إنه أو انطباعي الخاطئ لما جيت إنه البرنامج إنه الناس كانوا جايين على أساس إنه وجاهة. لكن اللي وجدته صراحة كانوا الناس مستعدين من أول يوم إنه يكون يعني very open with the failures قبل النجاحات. الشيء هذا يكسر الحواجز immediately، يعني من أول يوم يكسر الحواجز. هذا الشيء الأول. شيء ثاني، يبني ثقة مباشرة مع الشخص اللي قدامك، وما في شخص يقدر يسوي الشيء هذا إلا الشخص هذا واثق من نفسه، الشخص هذا يبغى يتعلم، الشخص هذا يبغى يشوف مصلحتك مثل مصلحته. فكان هذا شيء كامن مع الجميع للأمانة. كان الشيء الأول. الشيء الثاني كان ما في fear or trepidation of making mistakes. How to look foolish. يمكن أبتديك أنت أول واحد يعني ولا هو قصدي إنه look foolish، بس أقصد إنه trying something new، يعني اطلع من برا الكومفورت زون. أي بالضبط، يعني اطلع، حاول، جيب أخطأ. فكانت it's a safe zone صراحة. فعلا كنا يعني it's a cliché، بس فعلا كنا family حافظين بعض. what happens in there stays in there. ما حد قاعد يتصيد على الثاني، كل واحد يبغى يرفع الثاني. وكان الفيدباك ما هو constructive، كان يعني constructive 1000 يعني. والتشجيع، وسبحان الله لأنه كذا we are the best cohort 2A.
I have to agree.
عشان كذا استمرت من بعدها. فصراحة يعني شهادتي مجروحة في الجميع، وأعتبر نفسي أقلهم. فهذا كان الأول. الشيء الثاني كانت على أول شيء أنا اسمي البسام، فاسم على مسمى إن شاء الله. فالابتسامة بالعكس. أنا أتذكر أنا تزوجت a clinical psychologist, a therapist. كذا عشان كذا تصلحت. لكن أذكر أنها كانت تقول واحدة يعني من الأشياء في interviews just always smile, that's it. لأنه الانطباع، وكلنا درسنا الشيء هذا، الانطباع اللي قدامك ياخذه منك من أول 3 ثواني 4 ثواني. فأسمايل بريكس الحواجز. سبحان الله، الرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الابتسامة صدقة وبما معناه. فأنا I think it starts with that. It starts with a good attitude, positive attitude. بس مو معناته إنه smile إنه you take it easy. لا، يعني I can tell you can be competitive and you can push. بس where you might be pushing too hard or go over the line, that credit that you have at the beginning from having a smile, less the person in front of you, يعطيك المجال ويعذرك. A book that I recently read. I reread Growth Mindset because it's one of my favorite books. I love that book. I recommend everybody reads that book. Another book I read is The 100-Year Life. Amazing book also. The whole concept is that we're pushing the boundaries in medicine, that we're going to end up living for 100 years. So the concept of retiring at 60 or 65, you have 35 years. You're going to get bored. حتكون عالة على المجتمع, حتكون عالة على أهلك وعلى نفسك, you're not, by inflation, you're not going to end up making. The book introduces this concept of working, breaks, learning, working, learn, upskilling through each stage. And rather than take a 35-year retirement, take mini retirements of 2 to 3 years in between. I haven't had a mini retirement yet. I don't think I can. My wife is working on this. But I do like this concept. Lee and Binti, we made a calculation, will be 18 by the time I'm 53, 54. So my plan is the first mini retirement is to go with her to college. She's going to hate me. But that would be great.
To live her journey with you on the side.
That's the plan. To get there, you have to plan. I'm thinking, my goal is to get to a portfolio career, portfolio life, where you're spinning multiple plates in the air at the same time. That's the goal. An executive for a bit, a non-executive in boards for a bit, an investor for a bit, a philanthropist for a bit, a volunteer for a bit, mentor.
Okay,
I think that keeps
mentor would be one of the things that affected you or was something that influenced.
Absolutely. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention all the mentors. I mentioned Carlos Salame. Then when I went to become a lawyer, Nabil Mansour, the late Stu Luli, Allah yarhamah. Then when I went to Holland, Fahad Al Abdelkarim, Talal Al Mirri. وبعدين when I came to Sami, Walid Abu Khalid, John Lonsberg, if you're saying it. And now to a new phase with King Salman Park.
Alhamdulillah.
يا عبد العزيز، وانت اول تحكي الحكايه حقتك وانت رحت امريكا، you made me smile لانه رحت امريكا في اوغست 2001. اوكي، و I can relate to so many incidents حصلت واشياء كثيره تعلمتها في ذيك الفتره، وابغى اسالك السؤال هذا. Tell us about a funny story. Just one، مو كثير. Just one. What did you learn from it?
في قصص كثيرة يا الله. أضحك قصة، كان أول أسبوع في الجامعة، كان الكلاس كيمستري وأنا شاطر في الكيمياء، والكلاس كان مدرج، فكان تقريبا 85 إلى 100 طالب، ودخل المدرس وعنده نظارات كبيرة، فما يلا شوف، وأنا قاعد في الصف الثامن، قام كتب مسألة على السبورة وقال اللي يحلها 10 points on the exam. في أمريكا يطلعوا ورقة ويكتبون الحل. أنا أتذكر في السعودية أول واحد يوصل السبورة ويكتبها الحل صح؟ هو اللي فيه. هو كتب ولا ما كتب؟ زين. أظن دفيت 2، دعست على شعره، ما أدري يعني، ركض طحت وأنا بالطريق، وأمسك السبورة والتفت والكلاس كله على الارض، يعني من I dropped الكلاس.
بس
ما dropped الكلاس، يعني انحرجت بشكل. ايش تعلمت منها؟ ما اظن اني تعلمت صراحه شيء منها اكثر من انه يعني انت يمكن you can relate. freshman year كانت a year of awkwardness يعني، وخاصة اللي كانوا جايين different culture بس اللي تعلمتها بالسنة الثانية انه ترى this is all يعني I laugh at it today thinking it's like a scar. If I didn't have it,
صح.
my experience wouldn't been as rich. فأنا I think these moments يعني يمكن فيها maybe there's a lesson إنه maybe these mini failures, embarrassing moments, something, it becomes it's the only thing you remember بعدين. يعطيكم العافية.
في مجال؟
أي تفضل.
شكرا عبد العزيز.
الله يحييك.
At this age, I'm not gonna say you're old or anything, but it just you have a daughter already,
Yes.
and there are young generation coming. Of course, they want to learn about things that you faced, or what kind of advice you are gonna give them to become leaders that will help the country in the future.
سؤال جدا جميل. أول شيء يعني be true to yourself or your values. وأنا حق أستحضر اللي قالوا لنا إياه في الأورينتيشن قبل ما نطلع أمريكا، إذا كنت مريت في نفس المرحلة ولا لا. لا تنسى يعني لا تنسى من وين أنت جيت والقيم اللي جيتها ودينك وأهلك ومكانك مهما أخذك المكان، سواء أنت برا المملكة ولا داخل المملكة. ف number one يعني have strong roots and be true to those values or those roots. That's number one. Once you have that, number two, try not to take try not to take the path that people will just tell you to take the path. Go and try to do different things. خاصة في البداية. يعني the older you get, the harder it will be for you to make changes. In the first 3, 4, 5 years of your career, you can make a lot of mistakes. No one will blame you. The change in your career path will not be that great. So it's good to make a lot of changes and go through a lot of experience in your early career. And make mistakes. It's not wrong to make mistakes. That would be the second thing I would say. The third is when you are successful, يعني success is short. So focus more on what you can improve. يعني لا يكبر راسك. There's always someone that's ahead of you. Try to keep pushing that boundaries and stay hungry. If the moment you get satisfied for over a year and a half, and you're in the comfort zone, I would say challenge yourself and leave. I'll say a quick story. I stayed within Aramco for almost 20 years. Well, up until I was in Holland. And when 2030 started happening, when Riyadh started moving, I had wanted to make the change to Riyadh. That was a big change in my life and a big moment. And subhanAllah, something happened to me on the personal side that kind of accelerated that I had to make the move. But I made the move, and at the beginning it was very difficult, moving from a 20-year career in an oil gas company, in a rising career, to a startup in a completely new sector, in defense and aerospace. So it's a Chinese at the beginning. But ultimately, I think it was a lot better for me personally and professionally. And so, I wouldn't use myself as the example here, but I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about these big decisions. And I think fortune favors the bold. توكل على الله. Take the challenge. Yeah.
يعطيك العافية عبد
الله
العزيز.
يعافيك.
Thank you على وقتك.
شكرا.
شكرا للجميع.
شكرا.